Hello, everyone. My guest today is Taavet Hinrikus. He is the co-founder and chairman of Transferwise, the international money transfer platform with over 4 million customers and valued at over 1.6 billion. It makes sending, receiving, and spending money around the world as cheap as possible at the real exchange rate. They call it the mid-rate. We'll talk about that in a second. He previously built Skype as the first employee from Estonia. He's also an adventurer, disruptor, and investor. Taavet, are you ready to take us to the top?
Yes, let's go.
So you're early at Skype. You're getting paid. You're walking up, waiting in a long line in Estonia to this payment, and you look at what you were supposed to be paid versus what actually showed up. There was a big difference. What happened in that moment?
So yeah, I was building Skype, and I had moved from Estonia to London, but I was still getting paid in Estonia. So every month I walked to my bank in Estonia, and they said, "Yes, Mr. Taavet, we're happy to send your money to London. We're going to charge you 25 euros." It doesn't sound like a great deal, but do I have a choice? No. And then I do it, and I go to London, and I go to my bank in London. I get my account statement, and I look at it, and I see two surprises. First one is I received much less money than I thought I would. I looked at, whatever, 1,000 euros minus 25. Then I look on Google for the exchange rate. Turns out it should be 800 pounds. Typically, I got 750. So I realized that the exchange rate that banks use is very different to the exchange rate that is being used at the financial markets. And typically, banks hide a fee between 3, 4, 5, 6, 7% in the exchange rate. And second surprise was it takes forever for the money to arrive. 3, 4, 5 days. We're in the 21st century. Emails go instantaneously. It makes no sense for money to be so slow. So after having realized that, I met Christo, who later became my co-founder, another nice Estonian guy. He was living in London.
Did you meet him through Skype, or this was just like through an accelerator or a startup?
We actually just met through friends. Okay. We probably met at a party, started
drinking
chatting.
buddies.
I wouldn't say that, but and he was sending money back to Estonia. He was living in London. And he had the same experience. He went to a bank. He stood in line. In London it was much worse. He spent an hour in line, and then the same thing happened. So we started talking about it, and we realized something is wrong here. Like there must be a better way. So next month, what we did is very simple. I sent money from my account in Estonia to his account in Estonia, and he sent money from his account in London to my account in London. That's a local transfer. So it's fast and free. And we looked at Google for the exchange rate to use. And boom, very quickly, we had saved thousands of pounds in bank fees. And we had this good feeling about having cheated our bank.
That's a good feeling. That can be a good feeling.
Typically, it's the opposite.
Yeah. Your big breakthrough here was you realized money didn't actually have to cross borders. You could essentially set up banks in each country, transfer money locally, and then you basically crowdsource the other side of it, and then boom, it's done.
Exactly.
Yeah, super smart. Okay, so that's kind of the start story. For the listeners, I want to give a kind of a flashpoint in time and where you're at today so that people can understand growth. Then we'll go back and capture more of the story. Last public update you gave, I believe, 4 million users, 4 billion processed kind of every single month through the platform. Where are you at today in terms of those numbers?
That's where we are. Literally when the story I spoke about was in like 2007, 8, we actually, then we were using this method between us and a few friends. And a couple years later, we were like, hey, wait a minute. There are many other people around the world who are in need of a service like this. And we think we can do something to help them. So we built what I would call a prototype, a minimum viable product. And we launched it in January of 2011. And when we launched, it was me and Christo, just the two of us. 15 minutes after launching, the first guy sent us 2,000 pounds. That was a moment of, holy,
how do you find you, though?
We had an article published, what was back then a little blog called TechCrunch. And they called us the Skype of money transfer. And turns out there were people who were willing to trust a website which just appeared with a few thousand pounds of their money. But that was a strong enough signal that we were like, holy cow, this could work.
Yep.
And it was like, okay, how quickly can we really build it and scale it globally? So 7 years ago, it was the two of us. Today, we're a team of 1,200 people around the world. moving $4 billion every month. And that's still the starting point. If we look at how much money moves around the world, we have a long way to go.
How much is it per month? What do you have of the total market right now?
I can tell you in terms of countries. So in UK, we have more than 15% market share. And that's pretty cool because there are not many, if any other fintech companies which have a market share as high as that in any given country. Mm-hmm. But in UK, we're going to keep on growing from 15 to 20 to 25%. We have another 40 markets where we have to get to 10%, 15%. So it's a long way to go.
And Taavet, just to be clear, that 15% number, that's you're basically adding up all the dollars coming in and all the dollars going out of the UK every month. And you're saying we make up 15% of that goes through Transferwise.
The 15% is from the number of people who send money from UK. 15% use Transferwise.
Okay. Now, are they typically, though, big transfers? If you do that in terms of dollars, is it still representative?
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, an average user sends thousands of dollars at a time using Transferwise. So which is typically people who either have lived abroad, worked abroad, maybe they still have family abroad, maybe they have another apartment abroad. So it's typically more than what you see in people using on Western Union or any of these services.
In fiscal year ending March 2018, it was reported and announced, I think you guys passed about $100 million in revenue and first year, I believe, congratulations, profitability, to the tune of about, I think, $8 million after tax in terms of profit there. Number one, are those numbers fairly accurate? And two, how important is that for you guys to turn a profit?
I mean, if our financial report wasn't accurate, something would be severely wrong. So these numbers are as accurate as it gets.
Okay.
How important is it to turn a profit? Kind of yes and no. What's driving us is to keep on growing this company in the long term. Mm-hmm. Today we're moving $4 billion a month. That's $48 billion annualized. Can we get to $100 billion annualized? Can we get to hundreds of billions? And we feel really good about getting there. That's really the goal. However, being profitable is pretty cool because that means we're completely in control of our destiny. There are not many companies of our scale that are fast growing and profitable. So we like it that way.
Taavet, as a consumer that's a potential user of Transferwise, when the main pitch is revolving around three kind of key components, which is, how fast can Transferwise, send money faster than my bank? Is it cheaper than my bank? And is it more convenient than my bank? Speed, it sounds like you're killing it there. Cost, it's hard to understand for the average person, I think, but you guys do a good job of laying this out on your website. However, the optics, when I see that you guys make profit, even if you are significantly cheaper, I'm going, wait, if they're making profit there, even though the banks are making way more, they're not passing all of their upside back on to consumers like a Bezos would do, who constantly manages Amazon at a negative 14% margin. Why aren't you passing more of those costs off to your consumers and continue to operate in the black? It sounds like you guys can do this. This is why you've raised so much money.
I mean, I would, maybe you should update your knowledge on Amazon. I think they've been profitable for the past quite a number of quarters. It's a good point you're raising, but I actually think that it's to the benefit of our consumers that we are a profitable company, because that means they can feel sure that we will be around for a long time to come. Because if you look around today, there are many, I would say way too many companies out there that are being funded by venture dollars that will never break even. It's kind of ridiculous that you can order an ice cream, pay $1 for it, it'll get delivered to you in 15 minutes. That's only because some venture capitalist is paying for ice cream, mm-hmm. which, you should enjoy it while it lasts, but don't bet on it lasting forever. So I think it's important for our consumers to see that we're profitable. It's important that we don't become too greedy. And I think we're pretty good at it, And in terms of prices, we have done a large number of price cuts this year because we've seen we can do things better than we thought. So obviously, we're going to lower the price and make sure we're passing on these savings to our consumers.
Yep. I want to dive into an example of this. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong here, you're the first non-bank to get access to Bank of England's payment system. What's this? It's essentially allowed Christo to basically negotiate almost a 30x cheaper rate versus how you were having to do it in the old way, which is go through a bunch of middlemen. And then it sounds like you maybe pass that through to consumers by decreasing kind of the rates that you're charging to consumers. Is that accurate? And how did you get access to the Bank of England's payment system?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, and that's really it's a really important milestone we reached a couple of months ago. So now in UK, maybe taking a step back, in UK we've had a faster payment system for about 10 years, which means that money moves between UK banks in real time. UK was one of the first countries to have it. I mean, now many countries have it. US still doesn't have it, which is a big mistake, I think. And when the faster payment system was launched in UK about 10 years ago, there was a number of about 10 banks that were kind of founding members. And no one else has been added to faster payments since then until we became the first new member and first non-bank to be added. What that means is that we get to play in the same terms as the banks. We can move money inside UK in real time, and the cost of that is really low. And obviously, what this means is that our customers get even faster speed, and we can pass on the savings to our customers. So we're pretty happy about that.
And so walk me through why this hasn't, the US kind of is trying to do real-time things. Obviously Canada is trying to do things as well. I mean, how long until you get this kind of direct access in Canada, US, and other big markets?
Well, I think in US, the question is, when will US have a real-time payment system? People are working on it, but it's still a good few years away. But what this does highlight is it's a question about regulation. And UK has a financial regulator that is really driven by bringing innovative solutions to the UK consumers. It's one of the few regulators that has innovation as part of its mission statement. And I think it's really important because it means they're actively working on making sure there is more competition and people have more choice. The example of getting access to the payment system is one of them. It hasn't happened in many other countries yet. It did need a regulatory change. And we spent a long time with the Bank of England and the FCA to make sure we can do it. It's obviously, given that it's a critical piece of kind of national infrastructure, it has to be controlled somehow. So, it shouldn't be that every startup that gets started yesterday gets access. But, at a certain point, you should be eligible to get access. And I think that's where regulation can play a big role. US, I think there's a long way to go to make regulation simpler. We are subject to state-by-state regulation in the US, which is a big pain in the backside. It took us multiple years to go through the regulatory process and a few $1 million. Whereas...
does that mean do you have a bank in every state in the US, or can you just have one bank in the US to do your system?
We don't need a bank in every state, but we have a license in every state to operate in.
I see.
And just to finish this point quickly, as a comparison, in Europe, we are regulated by the regulator in UK, and we can passport our license to all European Union member states. That means one regulator gives us access to 500 million people, whereas in US, we have 50 state regulators. So, it's a pretty big difference and quite an important one.
It's interesting. Want to ask a question about funding, and then I want to move to kind of your new products, including the debit card, including borderless payments. So Series E, November 2nd, 2017, about a year ago, you raised $280 million, call it a $1.6 billion valuation. IVP was kind of a lead there. Quick question for you. A lot of times when companies kind of get to your scale, get to this kind of, Series E, and onwards, you start obviously getting secondaries where early folks want to get out. What I'm curious about, I know you guys haven't released an exact split, but is it fair to say more than 90% of that $280 million actually went into operating and growing your Asia footprint, or was more than that going to paying off early folks?
So it was a split. We frankly raised money not because we needed it, but because we were already profitable. But we saw it would be a good thing to have a slightly stronger balance sheet for the business. As we continue expanding around the world, it's good to have more money in the bank. And just make sure that to our partners, to our customers, we're a much more trustworthy partner where you have certainty it's going to be around for a long time. At the same time, I remember hiring the first people in 2011, telling them, hey guys, we have this crazy idea. We're building this kind of alternative way to move money. It may work, it may not work. I'd love you to join the journey. We can't pay you a high salary.
Take equity.
But, we promise that, we'll give you options, and if the company does well, then you'll do well. So it was really important to actually show people that, that these options are worth something. So we had a bunch of early employees be able to sell a part of their vested options. We had early investors sell. So I think net it was a fantastic deal for everyone. Kind of letting some of the tension that builds in a cap table of a company, and inevitably happens over time, letting some of the tension out, providing new capital to the company.
Taavet, were you feeling from that tension? Sorry to cut you off, but were you feeling any pressure to go public from that tension? And this was a way to alleviate that and stay private?
I'd say that's a little bit of a stretch, but it could lead to that.
Yeah.
If we think about the world today, then doing secondaries is definitely a way to push it further out. But I think besides that, it's really important to make sure that you actually do kind of cover your word, and make sure that the people who did believe you 7 years ago, they do get a return if they want to at that point in time.
Yep. Once you get on the venture path, as you know, it becomes a cycle, right? And you see kind of something happening every kind of 12 to 16 months. This was about a year ago you did this round. Are you currently raising an additional round of capital?
No. I mean, the money we raised last time is sitting on our balance sheet.
All of it?
We've become more profitable since then. We keep on reinvesting as quickly as we can. Frankly, we'd love to reinvest more. The best investment we can make is hiring people. We've hired about 500-600 people in the last year. We keep on doing that faster and faster. So,
but just to be clear, that 280, all of that is still sitting in the bank on your balance sheet.
The portion of that which a company raised is sitting on our balance sheet. Yes.
Got it. You mean some obviously was secondary, but the rest it's still in the bank. Yeah, that's great. Okay, let's focus on new products. So you talk about the erosion of banking. These guys used to be fiefdoms. You kind of have asset management, which Wealthfront and Betterment are kind of going after, and some others. You've got money transfer, which you're playing in. Obviously, there's some other, World Remit, Revolt. There's some other players there. Then obviously you've got kind of debit cards, credit cards, things like that. Walk me through let's start first off with your borderless account. So, and we'll touch a bit on blockchain here. So your borderless account, is that kind of your version of blockchain, or is it more of a multi kind of currency brokerage account where you can hold multiple currencies kind of at once and then exchange when you see fit based off when you see favorable rates?
So I think, really we need to take a step back, and, we started out with consumer money transfer, helping consumers and later on businesses move money from one country to another. So then as we were kind of learning the behaviors of our customers, we realized that they still have to work with 2, 3, 4 banks in different countries. So and nobody was particularly happy about the experience they're getting. So we thought, wait a moment, why don't we offer them a way to keep a balance at Transferwise in multiple currencies? Today you can get the multi-currency bank account, but typically that means you either have to pay your bank a lot, it could be $100 a month, or you have to be like a top 1% customer, in which case you pay your bank a lot anyways, whether you know it or not. So it's really about giving our customers kind of more convenience and kind of taking a little bit of a bigger, like being able to help them more in their banking journey. So the borderless account allows you to keep a balance in a number of currencies. You can exchange them in one click. You also have a debit card which you can use, which has launched in Europe already and is coming to US early next year. You get a debit card which you can use to access the balance. So it's like a little global bank account for people who are living an international life.
A clever thing, though, I believe about this debit card. I mean, if I'm in the US, that debit card will basically know where I am somehow, and basically I will use my US account. If I happen to be in Germany, it will use whatever my Germany account is. Is that accurate? And if so, how do you know my location?
Absolutely. So whenever you put your card in a terminal, the terminal will try to take money in the local currency. So we make sure that we take it from your local balance, or we do least cost conversion. So we look at, if you're debiting money in euros, so we'll have a check. Okay, you have a dollar balance and a pound balance, whichever is going to be cheaper for you to exchange from, we'll use that.
If my euro is empty, if it's empty.
Exactly. Because typically if you use a regular debit or credit card, you get stung a few percent every time you use it. And, believe it or not, there are still banks out there who, in addition to having a few percent charge, will take another 50 pence or 50 cents every time you do a foreign transaction. So it's a complete rip-off out there.
Yep.
Why invest?
We're out of time. I want to get one last question. This goes kind of the macro economy of just world economics. Remittances are obviously huge. We're seeing immigration all over the place, people sending money back home to people that kind of couldn't immigrate over. Can you share, I don't know if you actually can share this based off how you have your data laws set up, but can you share, I'm curious, what stream, when you look at your total 4 billion you're processing every month, which stream from which kind of first world country to which third world country is strongest each month? US to Africa or China to India, or what's the strongest stream?
So for us, actually, it's not about first world to third world. It's most of our money goes from first world to first world. Our biggest corridors are between UK and US, UK and Spain, UK and Germany.
Which direction, out or into UK?
So UK is still our biggest sending country. It will be overtaken by US very soon. But today, UK is the biggest sending country, and the biggest corridor is from UK to Euros, to all over Europe.
Interesting. Any Brexit related?
I mean, if anything, Brexit will only increase the amount of money flowing. I would say. We also we do send quite a bit of money to India, but we send money to India from UK, from Singapore, from Japan. We send money between Singapore and Australia. So, but it's the majority of what we do is between first world and first world.
What's the biggest receiver though, Taavet? You said UK is the biggest sender. Who's the biggest receiver?
I don't know top of my head.
Okay.
But it could be. It's most likely to be another developed country in that sense.
Interesting. One last question I had here because it relates to blockchain. Many people argue blockchain decentralized. It sounds like you have that taken care of. The other thing is autonomous, right? Or not autonomous, anonymous. Would you ever invent a product that is essentially, removes, I have to actually identify myself in order to use Transferwise?
No.
So there will always be an identification. You have to, because your partnerships with the Bank of England and these other people, they wouldn't do that otherwise.
We are in a highly regulated industry. We have more than 50 regulators that oversee what we're doing. Money laundering is a hot topic in the world today. We have to do our duty to make sure the world is safe. We have to make sure that as a company, we can keep on operating for the next decades to come.
Guys, there you have it. Taavet, Transferwise, founded and launched back in 2011 after a TechCrunch article. They saw first 2,000 euros or pounds go through the platform. They said, wow, we're onto something here. Fast forward to today, 4 million users, 4 billion or 3.9 billion sent and received every single month. They just obviously raised about a year ago, 280 million bucks to move into some other product lines and geographies today, working on borderless accounts, debit cards, and just including and continuing the erosion of banking by having faster speeds, lower costs, and more convenience. Taavet, thanks for taking us to the top.
Thank you.